Welcome to this Filmmaking Essentials, Harry Potter. Today we're looking at, well, the incredible power of intellectual properties, how licensing rights work, and really the art of extending brand recognition.
It's a massive topic.
It really is. And to get into it, we've gathered quite a range of sources. We've got excerpts from Filmmaking Essentials, Harry Potter, the detailed Harry Potter Wikipedia page, some great Reddit discussions from Harry Potter.
Always interesting, those.
Yeah. Plus, a really fascinating 1999 interview transcript with J.K. Rowling, pieces from MuggleNet, World Brand Affairs, and even a look at Pottermore from Pop Junctions.
So quite a mix.
Exactly. Our mission really is straightforward. Figure out how the Harry Potter brand started and, how it achieved this just monumental cultural and commercial success. Like, how did they leverage that IP so effectively? So where does this whole thing even begin?
Well, the origin story itself is almost legendary now, isn't it?
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling, she's talked about how the whole idea for Harry Potter just kind of appeared in her head back in 1990.
On that train journey.
Right, the famous train journey from Manchester to London. She saw him so clearly, this skinny, black-haired boy, lightning scar, no clue he was a wizard. It wasn't like a gradual thing.
Yeah.
It just arrived.
Wow. That's the kind of lightning strike moment creators dream of. And she wasn't new to writing, though.
No, not at all. She'd been writing since she was about 6, apparently. But she said herself she'd never been this excited about an idea before.
You can tell the level of detail.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really striking, I think, is the foresight. She spent 5 years working on that first book. But even then, before Philosopher's Stone was even out, she'd basically plotted the entire 7-book arc.
The whole thing. Seriously.
Yeah. And apparently even started writing book 2 before book 1 was totally finished. I mean, that kind of long-term vision is, well, it's pretty rare.
That's incredible dedication, just believing in the story that much. And it's interesting, that she wasn't initially thinking, I'm writing for kids.
That's a key point, I think, from that 99 interview. The story came first, the characters came first. The audience wasn't the driving force at the start.
So the first book, Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone in the U.S., that sets up his whole background, right? The Dursleys, the cupboard.
Exactly. His pretty grim life before finding out who he really is. That moment when Hagrid arrives, it changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
He learns his parents were wizards, murdered by Voldemort.
And that Voldemort's curse rebounded, leaving Harry with the scar and making him, famous in this hidden world he never knew existed, the boy who lived. It's such a strong hook.
It really is. And then, obviously, the story moves mainly to Hogwarts, School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
Yeah.
And it blends, the normal school stuff, friends, classes, rivalries, with this huge looming threat.
Ron and Hermione.
Ron and Hermione, right. Following them through their school years, Voldemort's gradual return, culminating in Goblet of Fire, and then the massive final battle in Deathly Hallows. That whole planned-out arc is just testament to the strength of the original IP.
So, from that spark on the train, years of planning, boom, global phenomenon. Looking back now, what really stands out about its cultural impact?
Well, connecting it back, the impact was just so broad, wasn't it? I mean, yes, it fits into that British boarding school genre, but it felt more modern, grittier sometimes.
It dealt with some heavy themes.
It really did. And that helped it appeal way beyond just kids. It wasn't just books anymore. It became this cultural touchstone.
For sure. I mean, the simple fact that Muggle is in the Oxford English Dictionary.
Right. That says it all, doesn't it? How much it seeped into the mainstream language.
And how the fictional world started bleeding into the real one, like actual Quidditch.
Yeah, the real-life Quidditch is amazing. Fans just taking it and running with it. Yeah. And even crazier, perhaps, scientists naming actual newly discovered creatures after characters and elements from the books. Dracorex Hogwartsia.
That's incredible. And the physical places, too. Platform 934 at King's Cross. It's a landmark now.
It really is. People queuing up for photos with the trolley. And September 1st being Back to Hogwarts Day. The fiction just became part of the calendar for fans.
It wasn't just fans either, was it? There was official recognition.
Definitely. You had the Royal Mail doing stamps with the book covers in 2007. And you remember the giant Voldemort at the London Olympics opening ceremony?
Oh, yeah. That was surreal.
It was. And then the BBC listing it as one of the 100 most influential novels. It just cemented its place culturally and literarily.
It really wasn't just a kids thing. You see that in the Reddit threads, people talking about how the books grew up with them.
That was so important, I think. The writing style changed, the themes got darker, more complex, mirroring the reader's aging alongside Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
It kind of filled a gap, didn't it? For a lot of people growing up then, what else was there quite like it in YA or
I
children's fantasy?
Exactly. Maybe older classics or, some series felt a bit mass-produced, maybe. Potter felt different. Compelling world, relatable characters facing real stakes.
And the timing. It coincided with the early internet, right? Forums and fan sites were starting up.
Yeah, that definitely helped build buzz. Fans could connect, share theories, get excited together. Although, we can't forget Scholastic's marketing muscle and those initial glowing reviews. They played a huge part too.
Of course. But the world building was just so rich. And that core idea, ordinary kid finds out he's special, goes to this amazing school.
And the magic felt accessible somehow. Hermione being the brightest witch of her age, despite being Muggle-born. That mudblood concept, vile as it was in the story, actually reinforced the idea that magical ability wasn't just about bloodline. Anyone could belong.
Yeah, that accessibility was key. People compare the level of impact to things like the Beatles, that kind of cultural moment.
It does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
And the books themselves, they have this warmth, this humor, even when things get dark. That sets them apart from maybe some grimmer fantasy stuff that came later.
And you mentioned the marketing, but also just the way people discovered them back then. Physical bookstores, school book fairs.
Right. That physical discovery was huge in the early days. Before everything moved online, you could stumble across it. Scholastic really knew how to leverage that market.
So, okay, the books created this incredible cultural base. How did that translate into, well, all the money, the different revenue streams?
Well, that immense success essentially meant the books were this incredibly valuable piece of intellectual property.
Okay.
So the next logical step was licensing rights, allowing others to use that IP.
Starting with the obvious one, the movies. Warner Bros. Jumped on that pretty quickly.
They did, adapting all 7 books into 8 films, starting in 2001. And these weren't just adaptations, they were global blockbusters.
Huge revenue source, right?
Absolutely. And crucially, from an IP standpoint, they massively amplified the brand's reach and reinforced its value, which then paved the way for things like the Fantastic Beasts prequels, extending that cinematic world.
And then gaming. It felt like there was a Harry Potter game for every console imaginable.
Pretty much. Video games were another massive pillar. Lots of income, yes, but also another way for fans to actually be in that world interactively.
From the direct movie tie-ins to things like, what was that PlayStation thing? Wonderbook.
Yeah, Wonderbook. And more recently, massive standalone hits like Hogwarts Mystery and especially Hogwarts Legacy. Gaming's been vital.
And it wasn't just digital either. The Cursed Child stage play was a huge deal.
A huge deal. Opening in London, then Broadway, Melbourne. It showed the story could work brilliantly in a completely different medium, live theater. Added another big income stream and proved the characters still had pull.
And now, looking ahead, there's a TV series in development for Max.
Right, which is fascinating. A live-action series could potentially dive much deeper into the book details than the films had time for.
More room to breathe, maybe.
Exactly. And you see the excitement already with the casting calls for the main trio. It shows the IP is still incredibly potent. And the platform choice itself, Max, signals the strategic thinking about where this kind of valuable content fits in the streaming wars.
It's amazing how that core story keeps finding new formats. And then, the theme parks. The wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Yes, Universal Studios. That's maybe the ultimate brand extension, isn't it? Allowing fans to literally step inside the world.
Orlando, Hollywood, Japan, and the studio tour in London, too.
They're massive tours draws, huge revenue generators, and just incredibly immersive experiences. The level of detail is apparently phenomenal. It's about letting people live the brand.
So with all these successful spin-offs and adaptations, the marketing must have been incredibly smart.
Oh, definitely. Warner Bros. Had a really integrated strategy. You mentioned World Brand Affairs. They talk about that cross-media promotion, syncing up book releases, film premieres.
Made sense. Everything hit at once.
Exactly. And crucial collaborations with toy companies, game developers, making sure the brand was everywhere consistently. That's a big lesson for anyone building a franchise.
So it wasn't just ads, it was the whole ecosystem.
Right. And they were pretty early in using the internet effectively, too. Interactive websites, places for fans to share stuff, build that community online, gave fans a sense of ownership,
Which then transitioned into using social media as it became bigger.
Precisely. Social media became essential for direct fan engagement, announcements, targeted marketing for new films, games, whatever.
And the merchandise itself, it wasn't just generic stuff.
No, that was key. Immersive merchandising. Think replica wands, robes, Bertie Bott's beans, chocolate frogs. Things directly from the world.
Hmm.
Billions in revenue, sure, but it also turned fans into walking billboards, essentially.
Even now you see things like high-end gaming chairs with the branding.
Yeah, like that Secret Lab chair. It shows they're still finding ways to license the brand into different, maybe unexpected areas.
And that idea of transmedia storytelling, expanding the world through Pottermore, spin-off books, animations.
That keeps it feeling fresh, doesn't it? Layering the content across platforms gives new ways in for newcomers, deeper dives for the hardcore fans. Plus, things like the midnight premieres for the films
Yeah.
that created real event buzz, experiential marketing.
It's interesting, though, thinking back, the initial boom kind of happened before social media was everywhere.
That's a really good point. It relied more on traditional channels initially, TV ads, posters, and like we said, bookstores being so central then. And Scholastic's power in the children's book market was massive.
Yeah, they really knew how to push it in schools and book fairs.
Absolutely. That physical discovery was so important. And, the story about J.K. Rowling herself, the initials, the rags to riches narrative that added another layer of interest, didn't it? Even though everyone quickly knew who she was.
Yeah, that became part of the phenomenon, too. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've gone from the idea on a train through the cultural explosion, the different ways it made money, the marketing. It's quite the blueprint.
Mhm.
As we wrap up, what are the absolute core takeaways here? The filmmaking essentials, the lessons about IP and branding from Potter.
I think fundamentally it starts with a truly compelling core story and that incredibly detailed world building. You need that solid foundation.
Absolutely.
Then understanding your audience and actually growing with them, like the books did. That creates real long-term loyalty. After that, it's the smart stuff. The integrated cross-media promotion, really engaging fans online and off, building that community.
And the merchandising.
Yeah, creating immersive merchandise and experiences, things people can touch, feel, live. And finally, using transmedia storytelling to keep the universe expanding and feeling vital.
It really is a masterclass in building and managing IP for lasting impact.
Yeah.
So thinking about all that, the specific time it emerged, the media landscape then versus now, what would a global phenomenon like Harry Potter even look like today in our super fragmented media world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
What core elements would you absolutely need to hit that kind of scale and resonance now across all the different platforms? It's definitely something to chew on.
It really is. That's the challenge, I suppose, and the opportunity for what you call the new Hollywood generation. How do you capture that magic again?
Exactly. And as members of the new Hollywood generation, just remember, we are all navigating the shifting landscape together. Be safe. Be smart. Be great. For more on success in filmmaking, success in life, check out Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical, the new Hollywood generation series of books, and of course, keep tuning in to Hollywood Unapologetic. Thanks so much for joining this deep dive.